Hi everyone, my name is Alyssa Hall, and for my final project for MPH 516, I reviewed this study on the factors affecting antenatal care attendance. These are results from qualitative studies in Ghana, Kenya, and Malawi. So the study was performed in two sub-Saharan areas of Ghana, in Kenya, and in Malawi. And so what the study did, it was through the University of Barcelona, and they reviewed antenatal care in these four regions. So they reviewed data collected as part of a program of qualitative research. So the research from this article was under the umbrella of a broader research topic, looking at and investigating the social and cultural context of malaria in pregnancy. So as we all know, malaria is a very significant issue in these regions, and they wanted to know how antenatal care played into this. So in these four regions, most women do not seek antenatal care until after the first trimester. If they do receive care in the first trimester, it was typically due to uncertainties with pregnancies. They did not go about WHO's recommended antenatal care timeline to confirm the pregnancy, to test for any complications, do general maternal and fetal assessments. And so what they did find is that these women don't achieve the WHO recommended number of visits. So in these low income areas, these are a minimum of 4, whereas in most Western countries, it's at least 8 visits. They did determine that most of these women throughout their pregnancy attended at least one ANC visit, but most women didn't recall receiving any of the WHO recommended procedures, and these included, again, those physical, maternal, and fetal assessments to check the baby's position, to check on mother's blood pressure, heart rate, blood sugar, things like that, as well as HIV testing and other screening tools for these at-risk women in these areas. And they found that attending ANC visits occurred more frequently in the third trimester, particularly in Kenya and Malawi, than compared to Ghana. Most women, about 40%, attended these third trimester screenings. And then in Ghana, on the other hand, they found that these women attended more first trimester visits than third trimester. And they did find that age and parity affected the timing of receiving antenatal care, and other factors that contributed to them not seeking care were they were in rural areas, especially in Malawi and Kenya, where some of these women would have to walk 2 to 3 hours before even reaching transportation to take them for another 1 to 2 hour ride to reach an urban area to receive that antenatal care. It was a big task and they tended to avoid it, but they did attend some local clinics occasionally. So the overall qualitative study and ethics. So I would classify this study as a case study. They utilized several different tools that I'll discuss in the next slide, but they did perform 67 case studies in these 4 regions. And as far as ethics goes, I would have minimal concern with this particular study due to the following reasons. They received ethics clearance from the Clinical Research Ethics Committee at the hospital clinic at the University of Barcelona. So they went through this entire process everywhere in the 4 local sites and all of those within the 4 regions. They got clearance. They also utilized national review boards in these countries, in Barcelona, and also utilized internal review boards when necessary. And oral consent and verbal agreements were obtained from participants, whether they were doing the focus groups, interviews, if they were one of the case study participants and subjects. These were made sure to be obtained, and if women chose not to participate or chose not to be verbally recorded, they did utilize extensive note-taking in the data collection process. So to go over the qualitative methods. They utilized data triangulation, as you can see in the chart. They utilized case studies with pregnant women. They also did in-depth individual interviews with pregnant women, health providers that were involved in A&C care at several of the health facilities in these 4 regions, whether it be at the hospitals, the local sites, midwives, and then other people working in the communities. They also utilized focus groups and performed about 51 total between the 4 regions. And so going back to that idea of data triangulation to continue to validate and make the data more reliable, they utilized those interviews with all the different types of people. And in these interviews, they utilized broad research questions. So that way participants were able to go further into different subjects and they could gather more data overall by not narrowing in. They also utilized focus groups. So these were community members. They also brought in different people from around the different areas to make sure that these women and other community members were able to voice their concerns and ideas about why women were or were not seeking A&C care. And they also utilized observations, so the case studies with the 67 women. And again, with the interviews, they used various types of respondents. And when it came to data collection and data analysis, they were performed in parallel, that it was made sure that in the study design that data was collected and then briefly analyzed, and other data collection tools and notes were taken within a reasonable time span. And to ensure that there was no bias, the case studies, in-depth individual interviews, and the focus group discussions were all facilitated by different members of the research team, and the data was collected by these different members to prevent researcher bias. These are my references. Please let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for a great semester.